Right, the deadly duo are back. We haven't seen our guests come through the doors, and sometimes you have to be prepared for that. So we were in full flow. We were criticizing absolutely everything and loving every minute of it when we broke off. So we're going to do the same thing now. And I'm just going to go through the newspaper that we've got, and I'm going to get comment from Stuart and comment from me. And what the stories are, and the front page of the Daily Mail is enough to make you sick. And what it says is that the hard left union leader behind the most disruptive strike in NHS history goes on holiday just as the doctors have walked out. Now, if that's true, and we have to be very careful, because I think a certain amount of speculation is that's where he has gone, but he's disappeared off the face of the earth. What's your view of this doctor strike, Stuart?
Well, it seems to me that they have got a case, but I can't really imagine that anybody's going to give a 35% increase. I think the real problem is that they're not very well paid to start with. They're just junior doctors, and it's going to be assumed that their vocation means everything. I think they get 29 on graduation. Well, that's not a lot, is it, when you think about it? If you've got a family,
29,000 a year.
Yeah.
No, it's not a lot nowadays. It really isn't. I mean,
well, it's actually a third of what I get, and
yeah. Well, it's double what I get, but I mean, who would we? Actually, it's terribly funny because we put out a little tongue-in-cheek ad, which has been very effective, I may say, on something called Neighbourhood. And it's amazing. We asked for remarkable people, and some of the unremarkable people is that they're so trolling. You know, we said that there was no immediate remuneration. And, you think that we personally offended them?
Well, I think, you see, it comes back, doesn't it, that Tony Blair invested huge amounts of money in the NHS, but it all went to specialists and what else? And people who run the place,
administrators,
and therefore there hasn't been the sound of evidence. It's just not the health workers; it's every workers, isn't it? Really?
Yes, it is.
It's years and years and years because of this capitalist flipping government. It really is. These 12 years of it should be fin du siècle for Conservative parties. For people who don't know what that is, fin du siècle is the end of an era. The days past. Now, remember the Harold Wilson?
Yes.
He had fin du siècle, didn't he?
Yes. As a matter of fact, just as an aside, I was watching this series Stonehouse. I watched the first.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got Harold Wilson impersonated by an actor there, and the bloke doesn't do a bad job.
It's great. I see. Yeah, it's a terrific film.
Well worthwhile taking a look. Stonehouse. He was an MP who created his own disappearance because he'd got himself into dreadful financial trouble, taking money from the Czechs as a spy. He was a cabinet minister, and then he was dumped by Harold, and he'd ended up with his country pile and couldn't afford it. So he walked into the sea, made sure enough people saw him thrashing around. And then it was a bit like Lord Lucan, except they never found Lord Lucan. Stonehouse had to reappear.
The film says a detective comes up. I've been here to arrest you, copper.
Yes. Anyway, Harold Wilson, you're quite right. I mean, Wilson, Thatcher came, it was an era, end of an era. I mean, I'm never sure whether these eras are cut short just a little bit too quickly, but the fact of the matter is that they do outlive their usefulness. What Thatcher saw in 1979 bore no relationship to what she was seeing in 1989, and so it was time. It was time for readjustment. The only thing is, I'm not sure that the replacements are much better.
The situation now is unique, you see, because, as I said before, I know Boris, right, and I know that he was crafty enough when he was Prime Minister to pack his cabinet of second-rate people.
Yeah.
Because he didn't feel it's none of them will be able to usurp Boris. That's the reason he did it. But once he was gone, we are left with second-rate people.
Yeah,
none of them. I'm sorry, Rishi, but none of you are fit for the vote. And then again, I go back to this thing I was talking about politics, celebrities colonizing politics. People don't vote for the Conservatives. They vote for Boris. Now in Keir Starmer, you've got a charisma bypass, so nobody's going to vote for him. And the Greens, who could have been the main party of opposition, have blown it because they're both A, their managerial incompetence, and B, their leadership policy. Because they got two leaders. Caroline Lucas didn't want the job. They got two leaders. Nobody knows who the hell they are. I'm not going to vote for them. Who the hell are they? Sort of thing. And Keir Starmer, of course. So Keir Starmer, best bet, I reckon, is to put Andy Norman in charge and Angela Rayner as, I don't know, deputy. She's got charisma coming out of her toes, hasn't she?
Well, she certainly can yap enough. But as Mirador covered the first two. I think one was a statement and the other was a budget that Rishi Sunak, when he was Chancellor, put forward. And there is no question he is a good orator, a very good orator. And the papers the day afterwards, and the analysts, all these financial wizards in Fleet Street, in the Docklands, were all saying what a wonderful, he'd managed the thing so well. And then over the next couple of months, when they started picking it apart, it was awful. but he'd so in my mind with Rishi Sunak, it doesn't matter what he does. Is I keep on thinking, yes, sir. Are you spinning a good yarn, which is going to unravel in a couple of months' time? And I can't get rid of that feeling about it.
He's been on the ball all the time. With the Irish thing was very well done. And then he went to Sharm el-Sheikh and he did things very well there. He's done very good things with Ukraine. He's flown out to vote. And I think Rishi's doing a pretty good job, actually.
You think he's not bad?
Oh, not bad, yeah.
Yeah. Let's face it. With the Northern Ireland thing is, everybody made a deal except the people in Northern Ireland. And how is that going to play out?
Well, what the problem was that Boris put up this ridiculous protocol, didn't he? About, you've got to have a boundary in the North Sea, which was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Rishi seems to be almost there. Just needs one last push, but then you see you've got this absolutely complication of the Protestants who are now going into violence again.
Yeah, actually, one of the interesting things that on a headline in one of the papers, I'm not sure which, it said Biden is so pro-Irish in everything that in Washington they actually call him the Celt.
Well, what he's doing, he's going. First of all, it was Kennedy. God, he made a meal out of that, didn't he? He's Irish. They found some old shack in Mayo, turned on to be a cafe.
That was where my daddy was. Like your daddy was the ambassador to Britain during the war.
And then Trump promises that he had a grandma who came from the Shetland Islands, from the Hebrides. Right, and now we got. Well, Ireland is made for it because there's such a Irish diaspora in Ireland. There must be, back in the day, it used to be 30 million. There must be at least 60 million Irish people in Ireland.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But I mean, the one entity that was taken over by the Irish quite properly, when I say properly, accurately, was the New York police. I mean, they were very, very Irish. They were more Murphys. Anyway.
I'll tell you, there's a most interesting fact about that, the Irish. After 9/11, actually, Jerry Adams and John Hume, who used to go over to Ireland and Boston for financing, right, said, you've blown it now. People in America didn't know what terrorism was. Now they do.
Yeah.
You're not getting any more money. And that was vital in actually getting on with the peace process. Because the Boston people funded the IRA for so many years, didn't they?
Oh, yes.
And
actually, their tentacles were very good. I can remember is covering an IRA fundraising effort. It would be in 1971, 1972, thereabouts, in Vancouver, right on the western thing is, and you went in, and the boys in the berets and the dark glasses and the Kalashnikovs in their arms, they locked the door, and nobody got out until they made a donation.
Well, by the time we were there, like back in the day, the IRA used to have little pudding bombs, didn't they?
Yes,
that was their main target. Their main, and then they got huge amounts of money for rockets and God knows what else.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes they were involved with Libya giving them bloody rockets, weren't they?
Oh, well, I mean, the Libyans were great brokers for they'd sell to anybody, wouldn't they? It's not to denigrate Libyans by any means, but incidentally, I did some corporate training, perhaps 5 years ago, before lockdown, but with a chap who was the managing director of a Libyan company, which actually had a oil pipe going under the Mediterranean to a refinery in Italy. And they had a boat with a camera on to make sure that everything was okay. So he's a fascinating young man. But the funny thing is that I said, one of the things that your brochures don't show, some of the refineries and so on. And he said, "Oh no, the boss doesn't like photographs on the front of the of the company material. Don't mention that we're doing this." Dear. One of the things
what did I say there? What's that?
Well, this is I'm here to keep the peace in the island of Ireland, says Biden. I mean, they're all good sound bites, aren't they? I mean, as you and I have been there, we've been right in the middle of all sorts of attempts to keep the peace. And if the provost, or whatever they call them, they don't call them the provost anymore, do they? But let's, for the sake of argument, we understand what we're talking about with the provost. If the provosts are going to kick up again, there's nobody going to stop them. Not the Americans, not the new ROC, what the police service in Northern Ireland.
It's not led by the IRA now. It's the Protestants that are kicking.
Well, I don't suppose they call it the UDA anymore, do they?
Yes, they do.
Do they still call it the UDA?
They also put on UDA and UFA.
Right. Yeah. Well, the UFA were pretty vicious, weren't they?
They're all vicious.
Well, the UDA was, but if you wanted to come down the scale,
very pleasant bloke, but he's very lazy when you go and interview him. He said,
Yeah.
That's what I told you to our readers. I have to be in a cafe or a bar where I can see the entrance. Because the RA used to come in and spray around all the bars.
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, my wife my daughter belonged to a dance group, and my wife drove them all over the place. And they were dancing in Londonderry, or Derry, whichever, and they came down, from those mountains, and there was a pub there. That the IRA actually had rigged the phone, so if you made a call, it didn't go into the box; it went into their coffers. But they actually got into the little van that they got, and they started off down the street. And my daughter said to my wife, "Mom, look!" And she looked in the mirror, and here were some guys with balaclavas and brandishing us, chasing the van. They wanted it. And she sensibly put her foot down, and away she went. And she's a very brave woman, my wife, actually.
What mountains you're talking about? The Mourne Mountains?
Yes.
Oh, they're wonderful. I love the Mourne.
No, the Mournes are down. Oh, the Mournes are magnificent.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. They are called, the people that live in the Mourne Mountains are called the kindly people of Mourne. And when you go up there and you drive, and these strange little places, and so, but they all wave to you.
There's that folk song in it. We'll all work together across the water. That comes out from our mornings.
No, you're with me. I love the Mournes. And actually, there is a big reservoir up in the Mourne Mountains, and when you actually come across it, it is the most beautiful scenery that you could ever wish to see.
Well, when I was in Ireland, I used to have a place in Portaferry,
Yes. Now you're talking my language as well. I mean, I'm trying to remember the name. Is John somebody was the manager of John O'Hurley.
Yeah.
I remembering things.
I was there when he came here, and it was a sort of a nice little pub, Stockport, but he turned it into a really tourist.
Very, very nice Swiss restaurant. But you know where he was before?
Where?
He was in Londonderry. Yeah.
No, but I tell you what it was. Earlier in that there was up at, I can't think what I'm talking about. Up at the Ards Peninsula a bit. What's the midway up there?
Right, halfway to where are you talking about? Are you talking about the Ards Peninsula or?
Yeah, no, the Ards Peninsula, right, at Portaferry.
Yeah.
Just about from Portaferry, there was a place called Kearney.
Right.
And I got one of those National Trust little places. And I used to love it up there.
Yeah.
Portaferry, I really, really liked.
Oh, Portaferry is lovely. Yeah.
I used to sail boats out,
Well,
I love fishing boats. A guy from a brother of mine, and we used to go out, and we went up almost out to the Isle of Man, and I suddenly realised I was taking Protestant leaders out for a bloody ride. Oh my God, I'm going to get killed.
Well, when I was first in Northern Ireland with the BBC, which would be 1975, they all said, "Oh, come on, we've got to go to Portaferry, and we will have a drinks and so on." So it was a very pleasant evening, and there was Gloria Huntford was there when she was unknown, and so on and so forth, and Eamon Holmes, and all the people who since made it over here. And on the way back, we took that little ferry, which had to go upstream and down.
No, that's what I take you. What's the bottle top, the big lake? What's the lake? The lake Strangford Lough.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Now the actual Strangford Lough was a bottleneck, right?
Right.
And the thing would come out like this. And I tried to take a boat out, right? And it went right, and it went right over there, then back again.
Yes,
and people having their sports day in Strangford. I had to swim out this way and then swim out the other way just to get back into Strangford.
Yes. But as a newbie, I remember standing on this little ferry, and it had just got one upper deck, and here the whole pack of BBC then unknowns, now names, all singing "Closer, My God, to Thee" as we went across the Strangford.
Well, I remember,
that's what it's like in a war-torn area when you're a reporter. You see, you do all sorts of things that people say, "Oh, aren't you afraid?" Well, yes, you bloody are afraid during the daytime, but in the nighttime, you're having a great time.
On a Sunday, you used to see Strangford as quiet as a dove, absolutely quiet, and then you bang on the door, and it opens the door, and you go back to a great big bloody beer festival in the garden. Yes. Never mind about religion. We need our beer. What was the Stanford? What was the one right at the top? Not. I can't remember what it's called.
Are you talking towards Bangor and?
Yeah. Before you get to Bangor.
Yes. The other one was. Oh gosh, it's funny how your mind goes. But right, yes, it was right ahead. Not Newton Ards.
No.
There was another one.
There were various villages, weren't there?
Oh yes. Right, here's one for you. The International Monetary Fund is saying banking crisis and rate hikes threaten the world economy, but the UK is on track for growth. Now that's totally opposite to what the FT is saying today.
Well, there's sort of what they're saying. There's going to be growth after there's deflation. It's like that. I don't think. My thing is we're not going to get the kind of stagflation we had 2008. For the viewers, if you don't know what stagflation means, when there's no growth in the economy, but there's tremendous inflation. So that really is a killer, because your economy is not. Your economy is not working. Basically.
Now
but I think it's rather different here because the inflation I think will get under control.
Yes.
And I think probably after a little dip, the economy will start growing
again.
You've got to remember that the workforce was hugely decimated by the pandemic, so there's a lot of people not having money to spend.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Because they now, and also you heard this morning that people are having drinks at home. They're not out going out.
Yeah, that's right. 150 pubs have closed since the start of the year, turn of the year, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. But here is a headline that is just to show that we're on the ball. At least the good friend to the right is on the ball. Is Labour poll lead shrinks as the swing voters warm up to capable Sunak. And that's what you've been saying.
Yeah. What?
It's the voters are swinging to the Tories under a capable Sunak. Now, you were saying that you've got quite a bit of faith in this guy.
Well, he does seem much more, not the kind of leadership that Boris was opening or Margaret Thatcher was opening, just a quiet efficiency, basically, without all the drum beating. I think once you see that, well, Labour would shrink anyway because of part of that 20%. What's it? Because of Keir Starmer's charisma pass. But then that 20% difference opened up because of Boris's antics, right?
Yeah.
Because of his antics, he wasn't fit for the Prime Minister. Well, I don't think Rishi Sunak's going to get down for partying or any kind of thing like that. And he's actually he's done some rather good things so far in a very short time. He's been to France when it needed to be, put him right about, and really he's trying to get us Europeans back by stealth, isn't he?
Yeah.
Little things, and he's been getting all the.
Now I'm going to help you because I'm going to make sure that your phone is protected.
Right.
Because a mobile phone is stolen every 6 minutes.
What, in Lewis?
And nationally, so presumably it's no different in Lewis.
It's funny you should mention that. My Leslie goes down to charity shops,
right? And
she said, I know in Brighton and all loads of people have purses stolen. And they said that one night down the bottom, opposite the one on the corner, opposite where you go to the volunteer, they said, we've had 3 purses stolen here in a week.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I earlier I said I got this thing here from Katie Bourne who's talking about the 3,000 coppers and she's maintained the numbers and so on, but we never see them except for going into the court. So that doesn't give me a great deal of faith. In fact, I thought that was a copper coming out. Now it's not. But one of the things that here that is. That will warm your heart, right? This is one thing. Cheers. There's a pill that could call time on hangovers, and you can take a pill before you go out for the night, and you don't get a hangover.
I don't get hangovers.
Oh, do you not?
No.
Oh, I do. All I've got to do is sniff and drink nowadays. I got a hangover. Well, somebody who in the drinking culture of Northern Ireland when we were there is what a fall from grace.
I don't think I drink enough to get. I drink very weak beer, not a great deal of that.
So, right.
I think I do get hangovers. What are hangovers now? What are the symptoms?
What are the symptoms? Well, I think the first ones are you wake up with a headache and try to pretend that it's from something else. Right. You've got the flu or whatever. Yeah. What was it called? The 26-ounce flu? But then you're still a little unsteady because the alcohol stays in your veins, and throughout the day you feel, is this day never going to end? Yes.
No, I don't suffer from that.
You don't suffer from that anymore.
Well, I don't know about anymore. I can't remember getting headaches through drinking.
Let's face it, we were all pretty damn good at drinking when I had time in Northern Ireland. I'm sure yours in Vietnam as well.
Well, of course, it goes with the culture. You have to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, of course. That was the excuse.
It was good for 2 things: drinking and fishing.
Yes.
I used to go shark fishing. I used to go and Irish. I loved it. I just loved it.
Oh, I mean, actually, I played golf in Northern Ireland, and I could walk onto a championship course and put down my tee and my golf ball and tee off straight away. Yeah, no waiting time. No. Yeah.
Well, that's St Andrews, isn't it?
It's no, that's Scotland. Newcastle was one of them, and
there's another one down
Belfast Golf Club, which is Belfast Golf Club was so snooty that it would not even let members of the golf clubs in. If you weren't a member of the golf club, you didn't get in. I wasn't a member, but I played with somebody who was.
But they sneaked you in the golf bag, put you in the golf pub, and wheeled you.
Yeah, absolutely. But one other thing about drinking in Northern Ireland was, you will recall this, is that Sundays initially, well, in our early time there, is the pubs weren't open. And the way that you found out whether the pub was serving or not is you went around the back, and if there was a pint of Guinness on the ledge, you knew that it was safe to go inside, because that was for the copper, so that he wouldn't come and actually check inside to see if anybody was illegally drinking. Oh, they were days. They were days indeed.
Because you remember, I mean, there was nothing there, was it? It was just everything was barred wired round.
Oh yeah.
And there was the chimes, and that was about it. I mean, but now it's turned into a tremendous. Well, it's a wonderful city.
That's why I was saying, will the younger people allow that to disappear because they're enjoying it? But you're pointing out is that it's the loyalists that are taking the youngsters and getting them disaffected. Yeah, which is frightening, actually. It really is. Right now, here's going back to the strike today. There's another big story. Demand for 35%. And ministers fear that pay dispute could drag on for months. And actually, when you look at Robert Lawrenson, how old is he? 28. His looks from the photograph he looks about 23, and this young man has got the whole thing by the scruff of the neck, and looks as if he's going to be a really disruptive. He's going to be another. What was his name? Derek. The activist from Liverpool. Who could actually he could call a strike at the drop of a hat, no problem at all. I wanted to say Derek Jameson, but he was a different.
Well, I mean, Mrs. Thatcher did actually decimate the unions, didn't they?
Yes, he did. But then again, I mean, it was swinging from one side to the other, because the unions of the 1970s were. I mean, I had to belong to 3 trade unions. I had to belong to Equity, so I could actually read the news. I had to belong to the NUJ, so I could gather it. I had to belong to the ACTT if I wanted to write it, which is a ridiculous situation.
When I got my first job at the Financial Times, it was a researcher in the library, and I had to join Slade, which was a print union.
I can well imagine. Yeah.
And do you know how much I got paid? £10. No, £2, 10 shillings and 6pence.
Yes. Well, actually, my first job in 1961, my first real paid job, I came back from Canada for a year and I taught. And it was £10 a month, as I recall. And I got change out of that from even going to the pub and so on. It was.
Well, in fact, I got out of the library because just writing about that now. Anyway, Financial Times was my first job. Hello.
Yeah.
And I've never worked since. If you call what I do as work. Well, I mean, but actually, writing is hard work. So I can.
Yes. Well, I mean, not only that. Let's face it. You, like me, put your head on the block. I mean, it was not easy in Northern Ireland, and you know very well that we never knew. Whenever we walked into a place, whether in fact a bloody place was going to be blown up, whether a gun was going to appear at the door. I mean, I always remember it was an amusing thing because I was working in Birmingham prior to going to Northern Ireland, and I was doing a phone-in show, and the IRA phoned up and threatened me on the air, you know. And they knew I was coming over. And so when I got here, there's a very colourful character who became a successful author and a producer and presenter of programs about Ireland called Frank Delaney.
Oh, yeah,
Very
yeah.
colourful character.
Yeah.
So I said to Frank, he said, I'm going down to Dublin for the weekend. And I said, well would you find out, how much weight this threat carries? So on the Monday morning, he came back and he came in and a big green broad grin on his face, and he said, I've got some good news and some bad news. Which do you want first? I said, whichever. He said, well, the good news is that oh no, so the bad news is you are on the list. The good news is you're number 1,000.
Do you remember my story about Jeremy Paxman?
Yeah, well, I worked with Jeremy in Northern Ireland. Yeah.
Well, he nearly lost his job because of me.
Oh yes, you did. Go on, tell the people. That's quite an interesting story, because most people would know Jeremy.
Well, back in the day, right? Jeremy Paxman, who was slightly behind me in career. I'd met him in the Middle East previously. But anyway, he actually got the IRA to seal off an entire town in South Armagh. I think it was called Mary something. What's it? And the idea was to actually prove that the British Army could not dislodge the IA from a right town. So I wrote this, and the FT put it on page 8, as they did with the fantastic splashes, because they didn't want to know. And there, Ingram, what's his name?
Oh, Bernie
Ingram,
yes.
His barking dog. And he actually saw this, and it appeared on the Evening Standard the next morning. Mrs. Thatcher said, I think the BBC should put its house in order, and so forth. And I said, and also poor Jeremy, and the governors were meeting that day. And so he said that, right. What was the thing that put him on? Yeah. It came on that the BBC has supported the IRA being able to take a town, right? And then I saw that and Jeremy Paxman thought he was definitely going to lose his job. So I said, he came into Dublin to see me, and he says, hello, I've lost you made me lose my job. At least you could do is buy me lunch. And I said, I'm very happy to do that. But he nearly lost his job.
Yes.
By doing that,
Well, actually, of course, Jeremy was a bit of a rebel. He was not averse to criticising the BBC quite heavily while he was actually working for them. But one of the things that is for those people who follow of Jeremy Paxman, because he became a very popular figure, is he has got what I've got, Parkinson's. And he and another well-known, I think, in fact, I think it's a well-known judge, have got together in a pub, and they now do a blog, sort of with little vignettes and so on about Parkinson's. And it's only I think about the third episode. So at some stage, I think I'll sort of type in and say, "Hoi, Jeremy," voice from the past. I've got Parkinson's too, but I'm always delighted with people who try to fight Parkinson's, because it's the forgotten disease. Nobody takes it seriously because it mostly strikes old people.
Yeah. But he's very annoyed about it, or he's a bit bitter, isn't he? On television things, he's quite bitter about it. He's got it.
Yeah, but there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
There's no sense in giving into it. I could have got angry about having it, and there's no question it's made a material difference to my life. I mean, I find it very difficult to go abroad now to work, and that was one of my joys, as it was with you. And of course, age has something to do with it. But I say to Parkinson's on a daily basis, look, bugger off, because when I wake up, I know that I've got it. I have to swing out of bed, and when I actually get up out of a chair, I sometimes have to bounce up 2 or 3 times, and you do too, yeah.
But you haven't got the shapes though, have you?
No, I haven't.
Because it attacks that, and then it attacks the legs.
It's the legs. Yeah. I'm having difficulty in I mean, I think I've told this story before, but it wasn't too long ago. Somebody that we know, and I can't remember who it was, and I said, really, what disturbs me is that I shuffle and it makes me look old. And they looked at me and said, but you are bloody old. It's just something that we don't accept on this program. Where none of us are old, we're just beginning to fray at the edges a little.
Oh, well, I like being old. Well, you've got to tick two boxes. One is your health has to hold up, and the other one is you need to be financially secure.
Yeah,
I ticked both boxes, so it's really quite good. But then,
you know, just going back to something in the papers, Stuart, is I get really upset when people bang the drum for this and bang the drum for that and bend the knee for that, because it doesn't alter views, right? I have always accepted that women are quite as capable as men, and I don't care whether I hire a woman, a man, or an in-between, as long as they can actually do the job. And yet they don't do themselves any help, because first female boss at GCHQ. So
what?
Exactly. So our top spy is a woman, right? She might have to hide her gun where James Bond couldn't. But I mean, is the fact of the matter is, why is it so important that it's a woman?
Yes, but this goes back to Victorian times. The man went to go earn the work, right? The woman stayed at home and had the children and did the cleaning and the cooking, right? That's what it's. That's what. I mean, you've seen the film Shirley Valentine.
Yes.
The way that women were treated and so forth and so on. And slowly, particularly with things like the internet, where women could work at home and so forth and so, we have equality. I mean, you look at recently the Today programme. John Humphreys, he's a nice guy. I've got nothing against him. He had £600,000 a word, a salary. But Gracie, the Chinese, Gracie won £100,000 when she exposed the difference. And it's it's like the football. Why shouldn't they play? Why shouldn't they play cricket? I mean, in football they would probably say, well, they hurt their tits too much, but you don't know, do you? I mean, that women can and do work at home.
Yes.
And you heard Max, saying, "Oh, the most important job." I said, "Well, I used to take the kids to school. We shared the problem. We shared the site jobs. But, I drove the kids to school, and I helped with shopping and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with that? Why should women have to do all these things?
Not at all. My only reservation about ladies getting jobs is that they get jobs because they're ladies, not because they're any good at it. That's always a frightening thing, I think. I mean, that can be true of anything. It can be true of coloured people. It can be true of gays or whatever. I really don't care as long as they can do the job. But I do object when, for instance, we talk about the weakness and the nonsense of our House of Commons. Is out of the 650 MPs, there are hundreds of them there because they're ratios. We must have a woman standing in this, or we must have a black person standing in that. And that is no reason to go to the House of Commons. You go to the House of Commons because you're a capable person.
But you notice in every film and every program now, you've got somebody who's either black or Muslim.
Yeah.
And because that's biodiversity, that's not so forth. That's not gender abuse. That's biodiversity, which is a good thing, obviously. Why shouldn't black people become detectives and be on the screen? Why shouldn't it? Why? It's the gender abuse.
Yes, but then again, why shouldn't we say, and I often do, is I don't care whether all 650 MPs are black as long as they can do the job. I think that there is a balance somewhere that we are missing as sensible people.
Well, so recently I was talking to one of the Lib Dem people and he said, "Oh, it's amazing. We managed to get candidates for the poll in May 4th, council candidate, and half of them are women." As if it was some kind of shock.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you see, they say that there is no discrimination, but in people's minds there are, and that's what you've got to eradicate to get a level playing field. I love it. The other day, is apparently there was a very rough football match that went on in the first division. We don't call it first division, Premier Division, don't we? And apparently the referee was a woman. And it's God bless the Football Association, because all it had got was referee N Jones or whatever. It didn't say, oh, this is a woman referee. There was reference made to it in the write-up of the thing. But that's the way it should be.
Well,
Who cares?
my daughter has done an MA on gender abuse, and it's meaningless now because of the internet, because social business and that kind of thing. And it's wonderful that women are not stuck at home looking after the kids and so forth.
Yeah. But I mean, it is slowly disappearing. But you can't expect somebody who grew up in 1950s and 1960s when the gender was women were in the place. They stayed at home and so on, to have changed dramatically to this age. But somebody who now is living in the 2020 will have a totally different viewpoint when they reach our age.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, my stepfather was very, very right wing and all the rest of it. And talking about, he used to go out to work and so forth. Mother stayed at home. And the whole thing about gender abuse is that after he did his melt round, then he did a bit of window cleaning. Then he'd arrive at home about 3 o'clock. And my mother would have a pot of tea waiting for him. And he said, pour me a cup of tea, will you, Nell? He wouldn't even pour a cup of tea.
To himself. No, it was a woman's job.
It's a woman's job.
Yeah. But one final thing, I've quoted this many a time, Stuart. As you know, I was head of a big media project in Kosovo.
Yeah.
And when I went there, the thing was in absolute mess, and I sorted it out, and I left a pretty good operation 2.5 years later. But Kosovo was known for its male dominance, right? Females were still seen as second-class citizens. When I left, out of a staff of 20, I had 17 ladies, and they were there because of their ability, not because they were women.
Well, that's how it should be. Margaret Faustino became chairman of the Financial Times. That's quite right.
Absolutely. There you are. Now, you've just been subject to 20 minutes or so of the philosophies according to Stuart and Keith. I hope that perhaps you can sit and you can either have a giggle, or you can say, hear, or you can say, listen to the old farts. We don't mind. But what we do like on this channel is public debate. And we don't say no to anything as long as it doesn't break the law. And indeed tomorrow.
He doesn't libel people, as you know.
We mustn't libel people. But in fact, I'm happy to say we've now got we've got a lawyer on board who can warn us if we're stepping out of line. He thoroughly enjoyed himself yesterday, and he was very good. Yeah. He was talking about Piltdown Man, but what people don't see that stuck in my mind from his chat yesterday was it wasn't just Piltdown Man that he conned you. He had 36 more cons that he pulled his wool over the eye of the establishment, including a toad that he said had been petrified into a rock. It's a remarkable man. Right, okay, it's 10:53. So just to remind you that the weather for today there is a weather warning out that somewhere around 1 o'clock or so we are going to be subject to very, very severe winds, which are going to last for the rest of the day. It's not bad out there at the moment. What we're doing is we're looking for a 12. Well, let's see. That's Thursday. Is today we're looking at a high of 10 degrees, and right now it is 8. So that's relatively chilly from what it has been. We've got some strong winds, and they're going to get stronger, and there are going to be showers which have not turned up yet. That's the weather out there. The news we've been through, and really the lead is Joe Biden is in Northern Ireland, and he says, "Peace in my time. I am determined to establish peace." God help him, because he and I spent 15 years of our lives on and off in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, and I'll be damned if I can see how somebody from outside is going to settle down and say peace in our time and actually deliver it. So there you are. That's our thought for the day. And Stuart, well, I'm not sure when are you going to be back, Stuart?
I'll be back when?
Well, here on air. I mean, your fans want to know.
Oh, next Wednesday.
No,
well, I might pop in.
He pops in from time to time. So
just to put you on the straight and narrow.
Just to keep me on the straight and narrow. Absolutely. Okay. Until tomorrow at 9:30, 8:30. Sorry, 8:30, when we will be reviewing the papers again. Till then, this is Keith Hayes with his wonderful assistant.
His beautiful young assistant.
Hastings.
I should get my female wig.
Monsieur Poirot.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
See, they're not using their little grey cells, Poirot. Hastings.
Toodle bit.
Yes, I'll see you.